I should have stopped when I felt his hands pause too long on my back. I should have pulled away the second I heard him whisper that question. But instead, I froze. My mother's husband, my stepdad Edwin, had just crossed a line I never expected. And that massage I asked for, something so innocent, became the beginning of a betrayal that still burns in my chest. My name is Cheryl. This is the story of how it all began, and how it all fell apart. Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, do well to subscribe and hit on notifications. To all my returning subscribers, thank you for always watching my videos. I never expected anything strange from Edwin. To me, he was just Mom's second chance. A quiet man, always neatly dressed, always polite, always present, but never overbearing. The kind of man who stayed in the background but somehow made the whole house feel stable. He wasn't my father, and he never tried to be. That title belonged to Paul, the man who disappeared from our lives the day my parents' marriage collapsed. After the divorce, it was like my mom aged 10 years in a month. She stopped singing in the kitchen. She stopped dressing up. But then Edwin came along, smooth and patient, and little by little, he pulled her back into the light. I'll never forget the first time I saw her laugh again. Head thrown back, eyes shining. And it was because of him. So no, I never expected anything strange from Edwin. I trusted him. I liked him. I was 21 when everything changed. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, the kind of day that hangs heavy in the air. I'd just come back from my part-time job at a local cafe. My muscles sore from hours of standing, lifting trays, and forcing fake smiles at rude customers. I wanted nothing more than a hot shower and sleep. But when I stepped into the house, Edwin was alone on the couch, flipping through a history magazine. His glasses perched on his nose. The television was playing some soft documentary, the kind that didn't need volume. "You look dead," he said, glancing at me over the rim of his glasses. "I feel worse than dead," I groaned, kicking off my shoes. "Rough day." "You have no idea," I mumbled. I dropped onto the other end of the couch, stretching out. "My shoulders are killing me." That's when he looked at me differently. Not weird. Just thoughtful. "I used to give your mom massages," he said, closing his magazine. "I've got magic fingers. Want me to help?" I laughed. "What, right now?" "Why not? Unless you'd rather keep suffering." I hesitated. It was innocent enough, right? He was offering to help. My mom wasn't home, she'd gone to the store, probably wouldn't be back for at least an hour. And honestly, my shoulders were throbbing. "Fine. 5 minutes," I said, turning to lie on my stomach across the couch. "If I fall asleep, it's your fault." He chuckled. "Noted." I pulled my ponytail out of the way and tugged my t-shirt up just a little, exposing my upper back. I felt the couch dip as he sat beside me, his hands pausing for a second before they pressed into my skin. At first, it was exactly what I needed. His hands were firm, confident, kneading the tension out of my shoulders like he really did know what he was doing. I exhaled slowly, letting my body relax under his touch. "You weren't joking," I said. "Magic fingers." "I told you," he said, his voice calm. "You carry too much stress in your upper back." "I carry too much stress everywhere," I muttered. He chuckled again, and for a few quiet minutes, it was just normal, helpful. I thought nothing of it, until his hands began to drift lower. It wasn't dramatic, just a slow slide, from my shoulders to my mid-back, then down to the small of my back. His thumbs pressed circles into my sides, closer to my waist now. I tensed. He must have felt it because he paused. "Too much?" he asked, his voice still casual. I bit my lip. Yeah, maybe just stick to the shoulders." "Of course," he said, moving his hands back up. But something had changed. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there was a new energy in the air. Like something just underneath the surface had shifted. I thought maybe I was imagining it. I wasn't. He continued the massage, keeping his hands in safer places. But I felt his eyes linger. On my skin. On the way I was breathing. on how I shifted every time his hands got too close to the edge of my bra. When it was over, I sat up and pulled my shirt back down. "Thanks," I said, not meeting his eyes. He stood up, adjusted his sleeves, and smiled like nothing had happened. Anytime. I went upstairs and locked my door. At the time, I told myself it was nothing, that I was overthinking it, that Edwin was just being helpful. But deep down, I felt something strange, something I couldn't shake. And that was just the beginning. For 3 days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The massage, his hands, the silence in the room, and that moment, that brief second where something shifted, where my body tensed and his didn't. I tried to convince myself I'd imagine the tension. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe my mind had played tricks on me. Edwin had always been respectful. Why would he start acting strange now? Still, I avoided him. I stayed out later than usual, took my dinner upstairs, and waited until I heard my mom's voice before stepping out of my room. If she noticed my distance, she didn't say anything. Maybe she was too caught up in her own world to notice. Or maybe she trusted both of us too much to ever imagine anything was wrong. But things didn't go back to normal. They got worse. It was Thursday evening when it happened. Mom had gone to visit her friend overnight, something she rarely did, and I was alone in the house with Edwin. The air felt thick, like the walls were listening. I came down to get a snack, hoping to slip back upstairs quickly. But there he was in the kitchen, drinking wine and chopping vegetables like nothing had changed. "Hey," he said. "Hi. You've been scarce," he said, glancing at me. "Everything okay?" "Yeah. Just school." He set the knife down and turned to face me. "You know, I've been thinking about Sunday." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "The massage. I just want to make sure I didn't cross a line." I stared at him, unsure how to respond. He didn't look nervous. He looked curious, like he was testing something. "I mean," he continued, "you didn't say stop. But you tensed up. So I figured maybe I should ask now." "Ask what?" I said, my voice dry. His next words hit me like a slap. "Do you like it when I touch you there?" The world stopped. I blinked at him, completely thrown. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. My hands clenched around the cereal box I hadn't realized I was holding. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice small. He took a slow sip of his wine and smiled. "You heard me." That smile. It wasn't like the ones he used on my mom. It was different. It felt like a secret. A dare. My heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to scream, to throw the glass at him, to run. But all I could do was stare. "You're my stepdad," I whispered. "And you're an adult," he said calmly. "If you didn't like it, you would have said something. Wouldn't you?" My lips parted, but no words came. He stepped forward, slow and calculated, and for one terrible second I didn't move. Not because I wanted him to, but because I didn't know what the hell was happening. My body froze. My mind screamed. Then I turned and ran up the stairs. I locked my door, sat on the floor, and tried not to cry. My mind replayed his question over and over. "Do you like it when I touch you there?" I hated how much it lingered, how confused I felt, how my own body had betrayed me by not pushing him away sooner. That night I didn't sleep. That night I knew something was broken, and it would never go back to the way it was. After that night, something in me shifted. I started seeing Edwin differently, not as my stepdad, not even as my mom's husband, but as a man who had stared at me with hunger behind polite eyes. A man who wasn't afraid to cross lines. And worst of all, a man who knew I wouldn't tell. I didn't tell my mom, not because I wanted to protect him, but because I didn't want to destroy her. She had finally found someone who made her smile again. Someone who listened to her long stories, who brought her coffee in bed, who danced with her in the kitchen like they were teenagers. I watched them one morning through the crack in the hallway door, laughing, kissing, completely unaware that their world had already started to rot. And it was my fault too, because I didn't stop him the next time. It happened again 1 week later. Another innocent moment that spiraled. I was in the guest room folding laundry when Edwin walked in without knocking. "Need help?" he asked. "I'm fine," I muttered, not looking at him. He didn't leave. He walked over to the dresser, ran his fingers over the edge like he had every right to be there. Like the room was his. Like I was his. "You're angry with me," he said. I ignored him. "Was it the question?" he asked, his voice soft. "The one I asked in the kitchen?" I froze. He stepped closer. "You never answered." "Because it was inappropriate," I snapped. "Because it was wrong." He nodded slowly like he understood, but he didn't step back. And then his hand brushed my lower back. Softly. Just a second. But enough. I felt my breath catch. My heart pounded in my ears. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. I turned to face him, trembling. "Stop." But I didn't move away. That moment, God, I still don't know what it was. A test? A war between guilt and curiosity? Between anger and something darker? He leaned in, eyes locked on mine. "Tell me to leave." I wanted to scream it. But all I did was whisper, "You shouldn't be here." But I didn't tell him to leave. He leaned closer, and for the first time his lips brushed my neck. Just once. And then he walked out. Just like that. I stood there paralyzed. I stared at the folded laundry, at my trembling hands, at the door he had just closed. And I hated myself. Because something about the way he touched me, it didn't just make me angry. It made me feel seen. Desired. Dangerous. Like I was no longer just Cheryl, the daughter, but a woman someone wanted. And that was the moment I crossed the line too. Because I stopped resisting. Because I stopped running. And I didn't know it yet, but the next time it happened I wouldn't stop him. There's a moment right before disaster when everything is calm. The wind holds its breath. The world slows down. And you think maybe, just maybe, you'll get away with it. But lies have sharp edges. And sooner or later they bleed. It happened on a Saturday. Mom had gone to her sister's for the weekend. A last-minute getaway she begged me to join. I made up an excuse about school needing space. The truth was, I knew Edwin would be home. Alone. Waiting. And I didn't want space. I wanted him. I told myself it was just attraction. Passing obsession. I told myself I wasn't responsible for how he looked at me. But the moment I walked into the living room in that silky dress I never should have worn around him, I knew I wasn't innocent anymore. He looked up from the couch and the air shifted. No words. Just silence, thick and loaded. Like we were both standing on the edge of something filthy. "You look different," he said. I shrugged, pretending it was nothing. Felt like dressing up. For me. For myself. A lie. The way he stood. The way he walked toward me. Every step was a warning, but my feet stayed still. "You shouldn't," he whispered as his hand slid around my waist. "I know," I whispered back as my lips met his. And just like that we did it.
Noge se taschen. Noe palegi.
Just heat.
Skin.
Breathing. Guilt pushed to the back of the room while we lit a match and watched everything burn. We crossed the line completely. I don't remember how long it lasted. Minutes? Hours? It didn't matter. Because the moment it ended, the front door creaked open. I froze. He froze. Mom's voice echoed through the hallway. "Edwin? Cheryl." Panic shot through me. I grabbed my clothes. He whispered, "Go. Stairs. Now." I barely made it halfway before I heard her footsteps, light, excited, trusting. And I wanted to vomit. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her everything and beg her to hate me because I deserved it. But I didn't say a word. I locked my door and listened. Listened as she greeted him. Listened as she laughed. Listened as the man who had just touched me kissed my mother hello. That was the night it hit me. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was part of the betrayal. I never told her. He never told her. But secrets don't stay buried forever. Because guilt? It stains everything. And now, when I sit at the dinner table and watch him pour wine for the woman he lies to every day, I wonder how long we'll keep pretending we're still a family. Because the worst kind of betrayal is the one that happens right under your own roof. And I was no longer just the daughter. I was the reason the house was about to fall apart. Have you ever imagined yourself in this kind of situation? What did you do about it? Subscribe to this channel and hit on notifications for more interesting stories like this.